Hello. Welcome to tonight's bedtime story by Lucid Tales. I hope your day has been full of joy, but whether it has been whispered words or battle cries for you, it's time to relax now. Find somewhere comfortable, whether a sleeping bag or a feather bed, and make sure you're ready for sleep. Take a moment to notice where you are holding tension in your body, and if you can, tighten it for 1 beat, 2, 3, and let it go. Relax all the little stressed parts and feel the freedom in your bones, the little loosening that means it's time for bed. Tonight's story is something a little different for all of my festival friends. It is called The End of the Party. A strange, limbic silence has descended, cast its cape over a span of fields gone dark and fragile now the shattering boom of bass and thrilling ring of treble have been abruptly cut off. The glaring lights of vast stages flicker off, casting the churned mud and trampled grass into a pale imitation of darkness, dully illuminated by the unhealthy string lights crisscrossing the festival. People drift, aimless and confused through the suddenly quiet space, following in small packs behind anyone with a mini-rig in their pocket, blown pupils wide and gaping at the sudden, aching lack of party around them. It's like God, or the organisers, have turned all the lights on in this vast rural nightclub and everyone stands around wobbly-legged and blinking like baby deer under the brightness. Where do we go now? Only here, out here, in the mud and shit and surprise stinging nettles, under a starry ceiling of deep sky with security fence walls. It is the darkness and not the light that surprises us, stuns us into spiraling like moths around the little pools of music, stagnant ponds or flowing streams on unsteady feet, weaving through food stalls and rides gone blank and faceless at the end of the party. I do not drift. I fold my arms across my chest to keep out the cold that I hadn't noticed until the music went away, and bend myself into the chill wind to trudge away from the main thoroughfare. My ankles roll inside my wellies, socks mysteriously manoeuvred down by my boots to puddle around my toes, leaving my heels bare and chafing. I can feel the cool of the mud through the rubber. God, we really do put up with a lot of discomfort to go and get high in a field with a few thousand strangers, don't we? It's not just that, though, is it? It's the atmosphere. The anything goes. The bright costumes people have spent weeks or months or 20 seconds preparing. Fairy wings and top hats and morph suits. The power of a wall of speakers as big as a house. The shambling, headlong stumble of 1,000 volunteers and artists and crew members frantically pelting along playing catch-up with the great tumultuous beast they've unleashed. It's the mud. Is it really a festival if you don't come home needing an industrial jet wash? That was what I used to think anyway. Now I've got a shower in my van and I feel like a goddamn king. But that's not where I'm heading. Not yet. Not yet. There are still many hours before sunrise, and I'm still riding the tail end of a cocktail of chemicals that make my blood think it's singing through the guitar strings of my veins. So I head to the only place still serving alcohol right now. The artist's bar. I'm not an artist. Well, maybe I am. I spit words sometimes, make music sometimes. I twist my body into funny shapes and set shit on fire and spin it around. I spray crap murals over crappier tags in shithole towns. So it goes. It's all art, right? Living is art. I flash my wristband at the bored, sober, volunteer watching the gap in the fence and slip through ahead of a crowd of big-eyed kids who don't see why she can't just let them through, even if they don't have the right coloured strip around their wrist. The festival's over, innit? They can see their tent from there, on the other side of that roadway. I kind of wish she'd let them through, give them their blessed shortcut. But I can see why not. They're high as bloody kites. Would probably wind up wandering all over the place and getting lost worse than they could just following the punter path around. I once had 3 teenagers knock on my van at 5 in the morning because they'd lost the whole festival after slipping through to backstage when a security guard wasn't watching. And now they were stuck and really needed a wee. One of them left their pocket belt behind, stuffed full of little baggies. One of those awkward slips. You can't exactly ask half the festival if they know anyone who's lost a belt full of drugs, so you keep it. And share it, of course. What comes around goes around. I hobble my way up the rocky roadway, spending my attention equally on the cold biting at my arms and the desperate desire to stop turning my ankles. I can't wait to get these boots off. I stick my arm in the air like I'm answering a question as I walk past the bored security around the artists' camp. Steam rises from their chipped mugs of tea. At least someone's looking after them, and they wave me a non-committal hello as I go by. We must have had at least 3 conversations this weekend. I'm glad they don't want one now. Or maybe they can tell I'm not sober enough to talk to them. I can hear the subdued, thudding bass from the bar over the brow of the hill, and my pace picks up. The mud up here doesn't cling to my boots as desperately as on the main side. Fewer feet churning it up. The spiky brow of the stretch tent greets me as I stumble up over the ridge and start the slowly increasing jog back down the other side. The music is clearer now. Some kind of lo-fi psychedelia, bass-heavy and warm. I tumble into the sweaty, fogged space and my whole body shivers with relief. I'd known it was cold, but not quite as cold as it apparently was. Jesus. I tug my thin blanket tighter around my shoulders and pick my way through the gathered bodies toward the bar, avoiding stepping on bare toes where I can. I wait for 10 minutes, staring dully at the blocky wheel of fortune behind the bartenders' heads with its enticing offers of free shots and embarrassing hijinks. I'm not really feeling up to the thrill of a gamble right now. One of them glances at me and raises their eyebrows quickly in question. Oh God. Speech. Who knows how that shit works? I send words to my mouth as quickly as I can, but there's a definite beat before they come out. Just a beer, thanks. That wasn't so hard. What kind? Oh, fuck. Any, doesn't matter. They shrug and duck below the pallet-built bar, returning with a can of Stella. I don't bother to ask the price. It'll just make me sad, and hold out my card. Everything got so much easier when everyone started bringing card machines with them everywhere. They scan it. Contactless is a godsend. And hand it back. Cheers. Thanks. I tip my can at them and shuffle away, clutching my blanket around me with one frozen hand. Man, it really is cold tonight. Funny how much more obvious it feels now I'm in this warm, moist space, surrounded by the coziness of other people's bodies. The occasional vagrant breeze feels like a whip across my back. Ugh. Really not the kind of thought I need to be having right now. Doesn't matter what drug I take, it always makes me horny. And I don't want to just sit and spin out and fantasize. I want to melt into a puddle of goop, maybe chat shit with some strangers, and then hobble back to my van and collapse until tomorrow evening in the crew party. I sit on an empty hay bale and huddle inside my blanket, watching everyone chatter animatedly in the haze of warmth. It's nice. Cozy. but it doesn't feel like the end point I'd made it out to be in my head. It feels like there's a glass wall between me and all of these laughing, talking strangers. It feels weird not to recognize anyone in here. There must be someone. Someone sits next to me, shivering like a reed in the wind and smelling like drying sweat, like the end of a long sesh. I glance up. The guy's my age, maybe, perhaps a little younger. All big green eyes and scraggly beard and curly blonde hair under a tipped back and fraying straw hat. He's wearing less than I am. Don't let the wellies and blanket fool you. Under here I'm mostly wearing glitter and rainbow leggings. I feel like I've been dunked in cold water. Someone has come through onto this side of the glass. And now it's just me and this random dude and a little bubble on a hay bale, freezing our tits off. The guy's hands are shaking with how cold he is, clutching a cup of tea. He's cute, so I offer him a corner of my blanket, and without a word he huddles in and nestles under my arm like a baby bird. "Fuck, you're freezing," I say. And this time the words come easily, like speaking is a normal human thing to do. The guy's like ice against my bare side, and I narrowly clamp down on the impulse to flinch away. Jesus. "It's pretty nippy out there," he replies, knuckles tightening around the cup of tea. "Let's get some warmth into you." I rub my hand vigorously up and down his arm. The tea ripples, threatening to spill over the rim. He takes a hurried sip of it and offers it to me. I shake my head. "Nah, thanks, love. I'm still on the beer. I'll have a cuppa when I get in." "You in a van?" he asks. I nod. "Yeah, full time. You?" He shakes his head, laughs. "I was in a tent. Wind shredded it to bits on Friday night, so I'm just taking bumps and hanging out to keep warm." "You haven't slept since Friday?" It's not that unusual, not really. But I can't remember the last time I did a festival without a wink of sleep. I'm boring now, apparently. If I don't get my 8 hours every night, I turn into a grumpy mess. But when you're bouncing between fields all summer, you have to pace yourself, get into some kind of routine, even if it means missing some of the things you want to see. Go mad otherwise. He shakes his head. "Nah, just been vibing on Speed and Mandy since then." I laugh. "You were going to have one hell of a Tuesday, buddy." He grimaces ruefully. "I know. Didn't really plan it like that." He shuffles around so that he can hold a hand out from the blanket. "I'm Ro, by the way." "Chris." I clasp his hand for a moment and take a swig of my beer. "So, Ro, what brings you to this cold, windy field?" He scrunches up his nose. "Got in with a mate," he confesses. His band had an extra ticket they needed to sell. "Nice. You?" "Fire stuff," I say, taking another drink. "Rope dart and body burning and contortionist shit." "Nice. I do a bit of stuff now and then. I really want to learn how to hoop." "That's good. Not enough guys do hoop." "Everyone says that." He grins. "I know this one guy who does it, and he's so up himself about it. Look at me, I do hoop. I'm totally in touch with my feminine side." I laugh. We all know one of those. "For once it's not I'm more boy than you," I say with a grin. "It's I'm less boy than you, and that makes me even more boy." Ro laughs and nods, gulping his tea now it's cool enough not to scald his mouth. He still hasn't stopped shivering. "Do you have any more clothes?" I ask him. A skimpy rib-length waistcoat and French knickers isn't enough for this time of night. "Nah, I packed all my shit down when the tent got shredded," he says, shrugging. "Half my clothes got blown across the site, so I got left with this and 2 jackets." He grimaces again. "Lost those too." He leans in close and whispers conspiratorially, "I might be a bit of a wreck." You don't think, I say, laughing again. It's easy to laugh. Drugs, oxytocin, serotonin, dopamine. My brain is a chemical melting pot right now. You need a place to crash? A part of me can't believe I'm offering it. I was so looking forward to just climbing into my van, making a cup of tea, listening to some chill step and passing the fuck out. Having another person on board makes it far more likely that I'll stay awake. But he turns his big green eyes on me like I'm some kind of godsend, and I know I won't rescind the offer. We've all been there after all. That would be so fucking amazing, I can't even tell you. God, even his teeth are chattering. You planning on staying up much longer, or... I'm starting to feel the siren call of my bed. This place just isn't vibing with me right. If he wants to stay out past another half hour, he's out of luck on a crash space. Unless he's somehow able to follow directions and remember a number plate while he's high as a kite. I'm not averse to leaving the side door unlocked. But he shakes his head vehemently. I am all good to go whenever you are, mate. I'm so fucking cold my body just wants to hibernate or something. Alright. I throw back another quarter of the can. It's starting to taste acrid and cruel in my mouth. A sure sign that it's bedtime. I suspect I won't finish it. Come on then. We huddle under the blanket together, both of us reluctant to leave its clammy embrace as we stagger awkwardly out of the bar and across wet grass toward the van. The wind whips at my hair and nearly bowls Ro's hat right off his head. Fucking hell, he mumbles, slapping it firmly down onto his blonde curls. Jesus, I mutter under my breath. We both periodically grumble and swear quietly as ankles turn and steps are missed and the cold air bites at our skin. I cannot wait to get home. Luckily, home is not far away. It takes us about 10 minutes to get back to where I parked it. And thankfully this time I don't pull my favourite walk up to the near identical Luton 3 down from mine and try to force my way in trick. The door sticks in the damp, and I valiantly abandon the blanket to Ro as I force it open. The steps won't pull down, so I just scramble in like a beached seal, legs akimbo. It occurs to me a little late that I'm flashing my arse at the poor guy. Finally I turn around and squat in the doorway, holding my hand out. Come on in. He grasps my wrist in a firm grip, and together we haul him up through the doorway and get the door wrangled shut behind him, shutting out the wind. The sudden stillness and quiet is intoxicating, and the way the van rocks gently in the breeze feels like we're in the belly of a ship. I love it. After an awkward, tense moment crouched there together in darkness, I pull myself to my feet and flick on the light, revealing the interior of my little cabin on wheels. Ro looks around in that way people always do when they're high. Pupils wide and black and shiny as he gazes about, taking everything in at once. They rest on the wood burner, the rumpled, multicoloured cushions across my bench seat, the ornate light fittings I pilfered from a car boot sale. I kick my wellies off and sink down onto the cushions with a sigh, flicking another switch to set my multicoloured string lights fading softly in and out. Ro isn't wearing any shoes. Ro isn't wearing any shoes, and his feet are covered in mud. I try not to care. Good deeds and all that. I'm a sucker for a pretty face. Take a look around if you want, I say eventually, rummaging around in my second-hand pocket belt for my phone to plug in. I've got to get some music going. Ro staggers to his feet, clutching my blanket tightly around his thin shoulders, and takes a few steps toward me to examine the kitchen setup. Full-size oven, under-counter fridge, a rack of brightly coloured plastic plates held in place with a bungee cord. the spice jars with their lids screwed into the bottom of the overhead cupboard so they don't roll around. I'm out of wood, I'm afraid, I say, jamming the aux cable into my phone. So no burner, but I've got a hot water bottle somewhere. Ro barely seems to be listening. And that's slightly aggravating, really, but I get it. He's high, he's in a stranger's house, he's exploring. I press a few buttons, and quiet, gentle sigh-dub erupts from my speakers, blossoming like a flower of sound over my skin. My whole body relaxes, sighing and sinking back into the cushions, melting and tired and home. Something rustles behind me. A packet of biscuits, tucked down the side of the sofa so I can find them easily. Ro tugs the bathroom door open. "You have a shower in here?" His wide-eyed face peers around the bathroom wall at me. "Can I use it?" I nod and stick a biscuit in my mouth, forcing myself up off the sofa. There's no reason to say no. We're on site, I've got all the water I could ask for, and he does smell a bit ripe after 2 nights awake without a place to crash. Not bad enough I'd have complained, but I'm definitely all for it if he wants to wash up a bit too. He can even go first. Guest first and all that. "Sure, let me get the boiler on. Towels on the back of the door." He disappears into the bathroom, and the water pump starts whining, drowning out the sound of the spray hitting the shower tray. I turn the music up and just vegetate in it, somewhere between come down and comatose. After a couple of minutes, I get up and put the kettle on, cracking the window for ventilation. Can never be too careful with gas. The glass starts to steam up, and I open the other window a sliver too. The breeze slithers along my neck like a cold snake, and I grit my teeth against it, shuddering. As soon as that kettle's done, I'm shutting everything up tight, condensation be damned. The music sings to my bones again, lulling me back down into the cushions until the water pump shuts off and the kettle begins to whistle. When Ro stumbles out of the bathroom, wrapped in my spare towel, I point out mugs and tea bags and slip past him into the bathroom. The heat rains down on me like a blessing, and my whole body shudders with pleasure. I love my shower. I love my van. It's a cranky old heap of cascading disasters, but it's like a womb, cocooning me and keeping me safe from the world. No matter what's going on outside, in here I can be dry, warm, and clean. I can have a roast dinner if I want to. A roast chicken at a festival. Now that's luxury. When I step out, I feel rejuvenated, like a new man. It feels like the last of my high has rinsed off and swirled down the drain with the dirty water, and now I'm struggling to keep my eyes open. Rose sat on the sofa, wrapped in the spare towel, eyes closed, cradling a cup of tea. A blissed-out smile dances around his lips. So he's not asleep. A matching mug rests on the countertop for me, steam curling in complicated curlicues and painting drifting arcs on the air. Thoughtful? Comfy? I ask, edging past his knees to snatch my pyjamas from off the bed. I don't hold with ceremony, so I get dressed right there. I doubt he'll have a problem with it. But regardless, it's my van, and I will get naked in it whenever I want. He doesn't open his eyes, so it's all moot, and just pulls his knees up into himself so I have a little more room. "Your van rocks," he says with feeling, as it does just that in another gust of wind. "Thanks." He opens those startlingly green eyes and smiles at me. I like the way the corners of his eyes crinkle. "Thank you. You're like my saviour. I'd still be freezing my tits off in that bar if you hadn't invited me back here." I smile, a wry twist of my mouth. You're welcome. You want clothes? He nods fervently. That would be amazing. I shuffle past him again and hang my towel up on the bathroom door before pulling open an overhead cupboard and retrieving a t-shirt and an old pair of leggings. Here. You can keep those if you want. I need to get rid of stuff. He takes them gratefully and stands up, the towel slipping down around his waist. My eyes follow it briefly before I turn around and turn the water heater off, letting him change in peace. Thank you again, he says. Really. I really appreciate it. It's fine. We've all been there, man. I certainly have. He laughs self-consciously, and I figure it's safe to turn back around. He looks good in the leggings. They're nothing special, just tie-dye stretchy pants, but he's cute in them. He smiles a bit shyly, and my belly gets that pleasant little rush that I'm really too tired to do anything about. He squeezes by me to hang up his towel, and I step away to awkwardly clamber up into my coffin-like bed above the cab. The ceiling is less than a foot from my nose up here, but it's bearable. It would be nice to be able to sit up in it sometimes, but it's not like I actively want to spend a lot of time sitting on my arse in my own bed. It forces me up in the mornings, which is probably a good thing. I'm gonna get some sleep, I say, leaning on my elbow to look out at Rose standing uncertainly in the gangway. You're welcome to stay up as long as you want. You can change the music and that, just don't put on anything too high energy. He pauses, considering. I think I might try and crash out too. God, his pupils are fucking huge. His eyes follow the rippling pattern of the fairy lights, half a beat behind. He's not going to fall asleep anytime soon. I would be more intrigued by that, but I am going to fall asleep sometime soon, and even sex with a pretty boy doesn't feel enough to pull me away from its enchanting embrace. You're welcome to sleep up here if you want. Or there's the sofa if you curl up a bit. I shuffle further back onto the bed, rolling away. I've got no preference, so don't feel like you've got to do one or the other. Do you want me to turn the music off? Nah, I yawn. The speaker's low on charge. It'll turn itself off eventually. Okay. There are a couple of minutes of quiet fumbling before he finds the switches and turns off the lights. Then some shuffling as the van wobbles from his movements before the mattress dips beside me. He clambers in and wriggles his way under the covers, keeping a careful distance. He's sweet. We lie there in the dark, quietly breathing, and I feel that warm, tense curl in my belly get hotter and deeper. Eventually, a hand tentatively touches my waist. Is this okay? He asks, and I can hear the nervous tension in his quiet voice. Yeah, I say, shuffling backward. His arm folds around me as I tuck in along the line of his body, a solid warmth at my back. A nose presses into my damp hair. We breathe in sync, his chest rising and falling against my spine as a slowly warming thumb rubs circles on my belly, a motion just small enough not to tickle. My eyes slide shut, body relaxing, and I hear the way my breathing shifts and deepens as I tip towards sleep. We don't fuck, though there is a moment somewhere before sunrise where our mouths find each other and we spend a half hour shifting and pressing and breathing wetly into each other's skin. tracing kisses across one another's necks and faces like fire before we both slow again and drift back into sleep. Or I drift back into sleep. He might just spend the rest of the night admiring the ceiling. I wake up at some point the next day, daylight clawing me out of a churning dream and into lucid sobriety. I stretch a little, luxuriating in the feeling of being clean, of being in my own bed. I don't think I'll ever stop appreciating this. Not in the summer, anyway. I roll over and study the face of the man sleeping beside me. He's facing toward me, curled up on his side with a hand in front of his mouth like he's whispering secrets into it. He's even cuter asleep. Everyone is. I stretch again and sigh. He's also between me and the bathroom. After some awkward clambering, I make it out alive, and he shuffles further across the bed into the warm spot I've left behind. He doesn't wake up for another 2 hours, but I'm not in a rush. I'm not going anywhere after all. Not today. I spend the time drinking tea and eating more biscuits than a healthy human body should be capable of consuming before starting my general pottering. In a space this small, you have to keep it tidy, or it becomes a shit tip faster than you can blink. When Ro wakes up, we are gentle, and not too awkward, navigating the tender space at the end of a weekend of dreaming, mindful of the bruises a chemical cudgel can leave. It's nice. Eventually, though, it is time for a goodbye. Ro must find his friends before they leave without him, and I need some serious solo time. We tenderly kiss goodbye, and do not exchange details. Who knows? Maybe we'll meet in another field sometime. But for now it is enough to let this be a pleasant memory. When he's gone, I start up my slowly charging speaker and blast some drum and bass to incite a clean-up frenzy before tonight's crew party. By tomorrow afternoon, I will be packed down, well rested, and ready to move on to the next muddy field. Good night. Wherever you sleep tonight, sleep well. And I will see you soon for another bedtime story.